Hello and welcome to Business Growth Insiders. Today, we go back to basics. This is Jeff Evans. With me always, the illustrious Lisa McGuire. How are we doing today, Lisa?
Doing well. I thought you were going to say we go back to the future. So I'm glad it's something. It's a little scary of what that might mean.
We go back to the future. What?
Yeah. So yes, we are going back to basics. And I think how the whole premise of this episode came up is, we're starting to see things perhaps loosen up a little bit with the whole pandemic and some things opening up. So with that, it's a great time to pause and take a look at kind of where your business is. I think what happened, when we went on lockdown or when everything started shutting down, people were first in shock and then in survival mode. And so at that point, it's very natural. What you would do is you would start grasping at things of what can I do? And then what happens when that starts snowballing, Jeff?
It all gets out of hand fast.
Yes.
As we both know, it gets out of hand very, very fast.
Yes, it does. And so, if you take a look now, okay, what has happened in our business? What have we done? And start looking around your business to say, okay, I no longer need this, or this part that worked for a while and it's not working now. So today's episode is back to basics. And we've come up with 4 things that you could do with your marketing to really give you a strong foundation.
That's right. Everything that's good in marketing comes in 4s. No, I'm just kidding. But everything that comes in business comes in some sort of structure and strategy. And obviously, when this was designed, it's designed to keep things simple, to keep things basic as marketing can be, which is not that basic, but I think that it really does kind of shine the light on it. So why don't I just give an overview of that and then we can dive in. Cool.
All right.
So number 1, identify your ideal client. Okay. Mm-hmm. Number 2, develop your product offering. Number 3, create the right message /story/offer. Could be 1 or 2 or all the above. And number 4, put the message in front of the right people at the right time. Mm-hmm. So let's get into the first one. Identify your ideal client.
All right. So I'm going to jump on that one, Jeff. The ideal client. And here's the thing is when we are, whether you're starting a business or whether you have an existing business, that ideal client is so critical. And I think a lot of times, people get 1 and 2 mixed up. They decide, okay, I want to sell this thing. And they don't think about who is going to need it. Now, when you're starting out, if you've not done this before, the natural tendency is when you ask, okay, who's going to buy this? Who do you want to sell it to? People say, anyone who wants to buy it. Mm-hmm. I was at a networking event the other day and someone said, who is my ideal client? Anyone who lives indoors, which I thought was a terrible way to niche. But basically they were saying, I work with everyone. And we know that when you try to market to everyone, you market to no one. So when we think of ideal client, what we really need to think of, and I know what has been popular in the past is talking about customer personas, avatars, and coming up with this fictitious name of a person. And we think about what they wear and all of that, where they shop, but really it's matching what your product does with the problem it solves with who has that problem. So you start looking at, what's getting in their way? What are the hurdles? Is there a certain point in their life that they need what you offer? And really understanding what is the driver. Because what we know about our ideal client is they're not coming to you because their life is all rosy and everything's great. They're coming to you because they need you to fix something. They need to fix a problem. They need to find something that's going to help them live better, survive and thrive. And so having that ideal client identified is going to be critical for you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And they can also, your offer can also be satisfying the desire, right?
Yes.
So really, when you have an offer, which we'll get to in number 3, of course, it's channeling the desire through your offer,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're not creating that desire necessarily. You're just trying to find the people that have that desire. Maybe they don't realize they have it, and you're helping them realize it, but deep down they've got it. So finding those ideal clients is huge. And you say, well, okay, so I get that, but I'm a restaurant owner. Okay, yes, I understand you probably want to feed everyone. Maybe you're a bar and grill, right? But do you really want kids in there? Well, no. Okay. Do you really want, people over the age of 65 who aren't going to drink? Really? No. Okay. So now we're narrowing it down, right? I mean, we're finding that age range, right? So you're a bar and grill. Do you do a lot of sports stuff? Yeah. Okay. So now you're really more focused on, say, the men, right? Yes, we're stereotyping. That's how this works. And now you're getting down into that, over the age of 21, under the age of 60. Okay. And male. Now you've already started to actually find more of what an ideal client base is. And then you add on sports, and you add on, people that like chicken wings, like me. And then you're really starting to narrow that down and find that. And then you're channeling that desire. I have a desire to eat chicken wings and watch football.
Already.
I do already. It's 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
What happens?
And also with that, Jeff, you have narrowed that down to, a particular gender, a certain thing that they like to eat. It's not to say that other people who don't fit into that box, that identification, won't come to your establishment or won't take your product, but you've got to have someplace, you've got to have a target to hit. And here's the thing, ideal clients, they're all, let's talk about going to a sports bar. They're not coming because just of the chicken wings. They're coming because they want an experience. So your clients or your customers are buying a transformation. They are buying their life, what their life looks like on the other side of doing business with you. So if we think about the sports bar, they're buying the experience of maybe being in a crowd, cheering on a team, hanging out with their friends.
Right.
They're buying
Excitement.
Entertainment. They're buying bonding. They're buying, yes, they need to eat. They're buying getting out of the house. So who they will be, they're going to feel like part of a community. They're going to feel like they belong to an organization, cheering on a team. So that ideal client is really, really important to narrow down. Now, one thing I want to talk about with that, and just pitch in before we move on here, is your ideal client may have changed from a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, really,
Huge.
We consume entertainment differently. We obtain our supplies to live differently. We have different priorities than we did a year ago. So just because you used to sell to that person doesn't mean that you will still sell to that person.
Yeah, keep in mind, too, there are new people in your town, lots of them, if you don't live in cities. And I know this because I am speaking to people all throughout the United States that are outside of major metropolitan areas, and they are blowing up everywhere, from Colorado to Virginia, down here in Georgia, Florida, Texas. These places are blowing up, and they're not the same people, okay? So I live in Cumming, Georgia, which used to be pretty country, but now all of these people from New York City, from Massachusetts, from Connecticut, they're all moving here. They're moving to South Forsyth County, which is still coming, right? And they're all moving into the same areas, right? And they're all buying with cash, okay? Because they can sell their small little place in New York and come buy a mansion, in the Manor in Milton here and be loving life, right? They're happy. They have a new sense of security and comfort, but they're also still from the North. So if you're still selling like everyone's from the South and you have people now from the North coming down, you've got to change your market. You have to be aware that we're going through a major change. We really are. We've talked about this before, and I'm seeing it even more so. And I'm going to shout it from the rooftops, which is The Industrial Revolution is gone. The inner cities being populated are gone. Everyone's moving out. They're moving out to the suburbs. Everyone's moving out to the country. People are buying up homes in LJ, which has not a whole lot to offer besides a cute town and some small restaurants, but it's not a booming place. They can't even keep real estate on the market up there. Right. So you have to realize that who you thought was your audience is now either changed, modified, or it's been quadrupled. Whatever it is, if you're not in the city, you have more people to show your stuff to these days, right? Way more.
Yes, great opportunities. And I think what we've learned over the past year is you don't have to be in the same city where you work. And a lot of companies are freeing up on that and fleeing the big city and those big costs, and they're getting out and living where they want to.
They are. And they are they're congregating. They want what they had there. So when I'm seeing, people from New York who are, very New York, they're very Italian. They want good Italian food now. They're coming down here. They're asking, where's a good Italian restaurant? And people are like throwing out like chain restaurants. And I'm like, oh my gosh, guys. Right. Because they don't know their audience. They don't know who they're talking to here. These are people that grew up on their grandmothers, cooking from Sicily or from Italy. Right. So, so you've got to know who your audience is. And because of the change and because you don't have to live where these companies are anymore at all, it's a massive change.
Yeah. Huge.
All right. So we've got a good sense as to your ideal client. And if I keep talking about it, I'm going to get jazzed up and use my hands more like I'm still in New York. So let's move on to number 2, which is develop your product offering.
Yes, develop your product offering. And we reflected on this a couple episodes ago when we talked about product ladders, but really looking again today where your company is as far as, does your product offering still make sense? Is it still relevant? Do you need to tweak it up for the way people are consuming products and services now? Do they need a different approach? And so really taking a look back to your ideal client. We're going to go back to that ideal client. And that's why the ideal client is so important, is everything we do moving forward has to do with that person that is purchasing your product or service. And that person, even if it's B2B, there are people making those decisions. Mm-hmm. So again, taking a look at what you offer now and making sure that it still makes sense for them. And do you need to revise how you do it? Do you need to repackage things? And we talked about, people who aren't sure if they want to do business with you, of having that entry level offering. So you want to take that part, Jeff?
Yeah. So you have different types of products, services, treatments, whatever it is. Okay. But you need to get people hooked on your company, right? We'll use that analogy. So you need to have something that people will shell out their credit card for, or their cash for, although it's mostly credit cards these days. What are they going to, open? What are they going to open their wallet for to give you, so that they're now showing you, hey, I have an interest in continuing to work with you. And then at that point, it's your opportunity to then upsell them and say a product ladder, a sales ladder, whatever you want to call it, so that you are providing more services, more treatments, more products that are relevant, that they need, they want, that you can provide, so that you feel helpful and they feel satisfied, right? So it can be a $7 product to a $47 product to a $97. I mean, it could be a $5.97 product, like me, right? So, something entry level for me is $5.97. You still make a return on your investment, and I know that once I can provide that kind of value for you, that you'll stay with me, you'll stay with my company, and then we can grow and continue to help build your brand and your business up. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is really important, because just making sure that you are really clear about the benefits your product offers, which will lead into the next point that we're going to talk about today.
Yes. Create the right message, story, or offer, or all three.
Yeah.
So let's start with message. I think it's the right one to start with.
All right. So message. So, this is my jam is message. It has been one that, it's just, we all have these skills that are just inherent within us. And it's something that I've always been able to have is figuring out what it is that really clearly just digs down into the core and essence of what it is you offer. And again, I'm going to go back to number one, ideal client, making sure what is that problem they have. And this is going to also be the story part, Jeff, is if you think about, we are drawn to stories. And I'll give you an example. So Jeff, I want to tell you a story.
Yes.
Okay. Look at what you did. And those of you listening, what Jeff did is he about came through the screen at me. Okay. Because we are live streaming it. But if anytime you hear someone say, I have a story to tell, or I want to tell you a story, you stop everything, your brain shuts down, you are hyper focused on, okay, what is this? And the reason why is as humans, we are natural problem solvers. We know this story is going to have a problem. A good story should have a problem. If your story doesn't start with the problem, if you just start talking about people and what they're doing and all, you're waiting, you're on edge, you're pausing, you're holding on until you see that problem. As soon as that problem presents itself, that's called opening a story loop. So in your message, you need to, the way you hook your audience, the way you capture your listener is you start talking about the problem you solve. And as long as you keep talking about the problem you solve, you will have people listening to you. Mm-hmm. And this is really amazing how this works. It's the way your brain is wired. When there is a problem to solve, we know it will help be something that will help us either survive or thrive. And that's when we continue listening.
Yeah.
If you present information that isn't going to have anything to do with me surviving, whether it's food, clothing, shelter, happiness, being part of community, whatever, thriving, then people will stop listening to you. They don't care about your company and the awards it won. They don't care how many years you've been in business. They don't care. No, you've got this employee that's been with your staff for 20 years. All they want to know is, what does it have to do with me? So your message is so critical. The other part of that message is you've got to paint the picture of the transformation that will be there for them on the other side of working with you. And, I'm sure we'll do a future episode on message and break down those 7 parts that I always use. But again, that message, if you don't have the right message in your marketing, if you don't have the right story, if you don't have that right offer, you are throwing cash out the door. You are wasting your money. It's using bad materials to try to draw quality, and it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. It's not going to work.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, when you're discussing problems that you solve, right? Mm-hmm. Why do you think you always hear stories about people who started a business because they didn't see what they wanted in the marketplace, right? They were solving their own problem. Right. Does that always work? No, it doesn't always work. But it's a great starting point. I also, when I'm trying to find inspiration for, storylines and for messaging, I like to watch old school movies that, old school for me, I guess, that have great storylines, like Star Wars, for instance. Holy cow, right? You go through the whole story of at least the first 3 episodes, which is 4, 5, and 6, the best ones. Anyways, you go through those storylines and you really, it helps to get the blood flowing and be creative, right? You can go to YouTube and YouTube anything these days and hear stories, hear TEDx talks, hear TED Talks, listen to the TED Talk, but don't listen to what they're saying. Listen for the structure of what they're saying, right? So that you understand, because they all have structures, especially in a TED Talk. They all have a specific way of doing things. And another one that I love to listen to, he talks a little fast, but he does a great job of it. And that's Russell Brunson. Started ClickFunnels. Most people in the marketing world obviously know who he is. But if you're a small business owner, you've never heard of him, go and YouTube Russell Brunson and listen to him talk about anything. and he talks a little fast, so whatever. But besides that, he's always telling stories. He's always completely animated. He sold $3 million worth of product in 30 minutes or whatever the record was. I don't know, some ridiculous record on a stage, okay, in front of thousands of people. He sold that much. It was it 3 million in an hour or something like that. It was stupid, like ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's because he knows how to tell a story. Not only does he know how to tell a story, he writes books about how to tell that story. He has software that you can use to help template that story. So, he's a big story guy as well. So I think what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of help out there too, when you can't hire people like Lisa or myself, when you're back to basics and you're just trying to get this up and running so that you can afford Lisa and myself, because believe me, we are worth it. All right. So let's get into, actually, I don't want to end there. I do want to talk about offer. So a story is great. Messaging is wonderful. But for a lot of businesses, if you don't have a great offer, people are going to pass you by at that time. Now, why? Because there's so many businesses in almost all of the niches. How do you really decipher between things, right? So if you're doing a good job of telling your story and you've got competition that's telling a good job of their story, what can you do to really decipher the two? And that is, you got to create a good offer, a great offer. If you're running Facebook ads, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, you need a great offer for a lot of times to get people to stop scrolling so they'll pay attention to you. That great offer is then tied in with number 2, which was developing your product offering and getting that minimum viable product, that minimum viable treatment, whatever we'll call it, so that people will come into your place of business, right? So if you can't tell a great story, or there's already too many stories, create an amazing offer so that people can come in and give you guys a try. And then once they're in, then they're hooked. And it's all about retention at that point.
Yes, which is all about the experience. And that will be another episode.
Oh, yeah, definitely. All right. And then number 4 is putting the message in front of your ideal client at the right time. So the right person, the right time, right? We talk about that again ad nauseum, because that is one of the main things that I do for a living. It's, where are your clients hanging out, right? And if they're on Facebook, guess what? You should be running Facebook ads. You should. If they're on Clubhouse, then you should be on Clubhouse. Most likely they're not on Clubhouse, but if you're in marketing, they're on Clubhouse, because that's what's on Clubhouse, marketers. Anyways, I think that, small business owners have a tendency to get shiny object syndrome, and they hear about this, they hear about that. And when it comes down to it, you just got to figure out where the people are, right? So I'll complete my section of this, and then you can talk about it as well. If people know the kind of product you have and they're actively searching for it, then there's 2 things you need to get done. You need to have an excellent search engine optimized website so that you come up in Google, right? There's a heck of a lot to that, but that is number 1, right? There's already that desire. There's already that need. People are searching for it in Google. You need to be there. And number 2, if you can do it, run Google ads, right? Because people are already hot for that. So people that are coming from Google already want what you have to offer. Okay. So you've already completed half of the story, right? You've already gotten them, they've already been interested. So now you're not trying to bring that desire out in them. You're not trying to channel the desire or any of that stuff. They already got it, right? So those are the 2 that I definitely want to make sure that you guys are aware of. That's why Google is so important. And YouTube, if you can do videos, do them. YouTube is the 2nd largest search engine next to Google.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it used to be, Jeff, and I don't know if this was me or I don't know if this was the industry, but when I would see an ad after I had searched, after I Googled something, and I'd see an ad at the top, I would scroll down and see, okay, who really came up? But people don't care. If you're an ad and you're at the top of the page and you're going to solve their problem, they're going to click on that. So, definitely a benefit to doing that. And just, a case in point, if you look at this podcast, so we are on, we're live streaming on our Facebook page. We are live streaming on our YouTube channel. And then we also have the traditional podcast audio on several of the podcast channels. Now, the reason we've done this is because we are trying to reach our audience wherever they are.
Mm-hmm.
Some people love watching live stream. Some people want to go back and, subscribe to our YouTube channel and go back and watch other episodes. But then some people are driving in their car or getting ready in the morning, and they don't have the focus or the ability to watch or the time to watch, so they're listening.
Mm-hmm.
So capturing your audience wherever they are, and those are going to be different audiences. Most likely people who like to listen aren't going to take the time to watch. People who watch, they've got other things that are going on. So making sure that omnipresence is delivering the same experience in the different channels to be able to capture them where they are. And there's places where we wouldn't need to be, and we aren't. So that's really important, is knowing where your audience is, again, and delivering at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So when you schedule out your marketing, first thing I always do with a client is we look at the calendar. We look to see what are events happening in your customer's life. What are things happening in your industry? Is there a time where there is a special pricing you can offer your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. And piggybacking off of the omnipresence strategy, you can and should be everywhere the person that's been on your website is. Mm-hmm. So that's called remarketing, retargeting, whatever you want to call it. Be everywhere. So that means if somebody's come to your website and they've left, you want to hit them with an ad on Facebook. You want to hit them with an ad on Instagram if they've gone to Instagram, but it won't show if they don't, right? You want to hit them on Google, and then Google's display network, which means a ton of websites that you won't even know which ones they've visited, but your image ad will show up. So you're able to follow them everywhere. Omnipresence, being everywhere that they have been or are going to be after they've come to your site. And that can be as cheap as $20-$30 per day in ad spend, which is really affordable for a lot of businesses these days, to make sure that you stay top of mind for all these people that come and go. Okay. And that's, excuse me, there's obviously a lot to that in regards to how to set that up and doing all the ad copy and all of that. But I still want them to understand the strategy there, which is the real omnipresence, being everywhere. You can be on YouTube, you be on Facebook, you be on Instagram, you be everywhere that these people are. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. It's amazing where you can be for your client, but it's important that you're everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So that wraps up our 4 things to remember, getting back to the basics. So just encourage everyone, let's pause, let's take a deep breath, take a survey, look around, figure out what is going on in your marketing for your company. And, I also want to encourage small businesses that are just starting up. I talk to so many small business owners who are new in the space, and they, ask about what they're doing for marketing. I'll do marketing when I start earning some money. And it's kind of backwards. Okay, there's 2 things you can grow your business. You can do to grow your business. It's either marketing or it's innovation. All right. So marketing is very much needed. But let's start with the basics. Let's get that foundation in there. And when you get that right, then you move forward with strategy that moves the company forward.
Oh, that's right. All right, we got a little technical difficulty at the end. But hey, there you are. That's great. Well, hey, we made it 29 and a half minutes without any real technical difficulties this time. So that's exciting. Very exciting. All right. Well, I think that if I have anything left to say is, get out there and do. Don't overanalyze. Don't, I need to wait until I have this. No, you don't. Get out there and do. Marketing can be cheap. Marketing can be free. You can do word of mouth. You can do networking. You can, get referrals. That's still marketing, guys, right? That's still marketing. Get out there, do, figure out what's going to work, talk to people, talk to your customers, your clients, ask them questions, really get a better sense as to who these people are so that you can find more of them.
Yeah. And if you do need more ideas to grow your business, go to our website, businessgrowthinsiders.com/free, and you can download 15 things that you can do to grow your business in 2021. That is a free resource we have for you. And yes, we'll ask for your email, but promise never to spam you. We're going to protect your email address. We'll send you some updates on shows, but would really love to have you join us on that platform.
Boy, would we. We certainly would. Well, thanks for that. All right. Well, for Jeff Evans, we've got Lisa McGuire here. Take your business, guys.
And grow.
Have a wonderful day.
All right. Bye.